8 years have passed since Daniel Day-Lewis last graced our screens with Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread. Even before the film's release, Day-Lewis retired from acting, but after earning 3 Best Actor Oscars, becoming largely considered one of the best actors today, maybe ever, and working with some of the greatest directors ever, like Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and Anderson, it's hard to imagine what else he could achieve as an actor. Yet Day-Lewis has returned to acting for Anemone, the directorial feature debut of his son Ronan Day-Lewis. And given that Daniel wrote the script with Ronan, it's actually quite lovely that father and son have come together to make a film. But Anemone is an odd beast, a film that has all the pieces in place for a fantastic first feature, yet with glacial pacing, extremely strange choices throughout, and not enough substance to do justice to the story being told. Anemone struggles to connect with its audience and is too empty for its own. Anemone is a mostly reserved story, and especially as it gets started, it remains almost completely free of dialogue. We watch as Jem Stoker Sean Bean gets up, recites his prayers, and says goodbye to his wife, Nessa Samantha Morton, and son, Brian Samuel Bottomley. Jem is going on a journey that both his wife and son know he has to go on. As he heads into the woods to a location he can only find via hidden GPS locations. When he gets to his destination, Jem finds his brother, Ray Daniel Day-Lewis, who has lived as a hermit in the woods for decades. When the two brothers finally see each other, they don't even speak. They simply coexist in the same space once more. Jem has brought Ray a letter from Nessa, to which Ray quickly gives a fuck off and ignores. As Jem and Ray spend time together, we start to understand why Ray lives the solitary life that he does, while also learning that Jem's journey to find his brother is of utter importance to the family he left behind. Anemone shows that Ronan Day-Lewis definitely has a gorgeous visual style. There's no question Ronan Day-Lewis knows how to compose a shot, and he's doing some gorgeous things behind the camera. Cinematographer Ben Fortisman, who has worked with Rose Glass on Saint Maud and Love Lies Bleeding, finds beauty in the dark, stormy skies, and rich greens of the woods surrounding Ray's home. Day-Lewis and Fortisman capture some stunning imagery, like one shot in particular, where we zoom out of Ray's home as one wall seemingly detaches and we see Ray and Jem dancing inside, then making our way through the woods. The way these two frame the lapping beaches with the sky looking ready to open up at any time is always powerful, and Ronan knows that when Daniel Day-Lewis is the center of a scene, he needs to envelop almost the entire shot to capture his grandness. In some ways, Anemone is almost at its most beautiful when it's solely imagery and there's little story. The score by Bobby Kurlick Midsommar, Beef, is haunting yet gripping, and it's hard not to get wrapped up in the visual artistry at play. In one shot, Jem and Ray walk at night through a lit-up carnival, and as Kurlick's sweeping music hits and the lights play in the darkness, it's undeniable there's some grand work being done here. Anemone doesn't have enough substance, other than an expectedly solid Daniel Day-Lewis performance. Yet superb filmmaking and a staggering score will only take you far without a script to do the story justice. And Anemone just doesn't have what this film needs. Anemone seems to think that having languid, hushed moments over and over again for the majority of the film equates to depth. Instead, this is a half-considered narrative about fathers, sons, and brothers, trauma, PTSD, and more, that doesn't really have anything all that important to say. By the time the film has gotten into its more fantastical, unexplainable moments, Anemone becomes more pretentious and empty than a film with something compelling to say. In the end, Anemone seems as though Ronan and Daniel Day-Lewis are stretching 15 minutes of story into a 2+ hour film, and it's not an exercise that works. As one would expect, Anemone is at its best when it allows Daniel Day-Lewis to show off his immense acting skills. But these moments are too few and far between. DDL gets 2 fantastic monologue scenes that help tear down the wall of why he is the way he is. But they almost come out of nowhere, rather than rising to these pivotal moments. The first scene is darkly humorous, but it also gets into a disturbing revelation that is essentially ignored for the rest of the film. The second scene, which is by far the pinnacle of Anemone, allows Daniel Day-Lewis to really get to the core of Ray in an emotional, powerhouse performance. As Ray explains his past to Jem, Daniel Day-Lewis shows us his shield coming down, as his eyes are overcome with his history that he's run away from for so long. It's a masterclass from Daniel Day-Lewis, which should come as no surprise. But it's a moment that comes after nearly 2 hours of mundanity and slow, uneventful moments between Ray and Jem. If you're waiting for the big DDL performance moment, Anemone ensures you put in the work first. Ray Stoker holds such a shadow over everyone in Anemone, to the point that it's a detriment to the other characters. Sean Bean's Jem is relegated to mostly sitting and silently watching Ray, and things are even worse for the family he's left behind. Nessa and Brian are back home in an impossibly depressing English suburb, mulling over the mess that Ray has left behind. These two are so gloomy. It's as if the storm clouds are going to envelop them at any moment. Nessa is reckoning with the life that was built after Ray left for the woods, while Brian has questions about his upbringing that have been kept from him. Yet they aren't really fleshed out characters, as they sit and wait for Jem to hopefully come back with Ray and some answers. But that's primarily what Anemone is. A lot of sitting around and waiting, while Ronan Day-Lewis frequently veers away from what's compelling in an attempt to build tension for those major monologue scenes. It's a plan that doesn't work simply because there isn't enough in Anemone to warrant its telling. Anemone has enough material to make a potentially gripping short film, but stretching this story out as much as Ronan and Daniel Day-Lewis do is exhausting. And at a certain point, it almost becomes laughable. By the time Anemone feels like it's starting to take off, with that second monologue, the film concludes in a way that makes it seem as though they had no idea how this story should end. While it's certainly great that Daniel Day-Lewis is back in his element, and Ronan Day-Lewis can craft impressive, imposing imagery, Anemone is just too much empty space, waiting to be filled with something.